You know, after going through the end of Leo's route, this music really does not fit there. I think it's lulling us into a false sense of security that Echo's going to be this nice, restful week in a small town, and yeah, it's kind of more like Twin Peaks in the end. Anyways, Blythe Fluid here. Thanks for everyone who voted, and you voted overwhelmingly for TJ. So what I'm going to do is do a short video here with the point where Chase chooses who to go after the end of that day, and then we'll do kind of the day per video kind of thing until we catch up with Howley, in which case it will then come update per video whenever the updates go public. So obviously I won't do them before then, even though I could, but it's not fair. So that's the plan, and we're just going to get going, picking up from where we are in part 3. I'm not going to repeat myself with parts 1 and 2 because everything's the same and it's not worth it. You can always check those out if you want the full experience. But here we go. Let's just pick up while we make a decision. And here we go. Echo. Chase chooses. I'm really worried about TJ. Well, he's a sensitive guy, and after a tongue lashing like that from someone like Flynn, I can't imagine what state he's in. I don't see him anywhere as I scan the area. I do see some trees and bushes further up along the riverbank. Since there's really no other place to hide, I assume that's where he's at. Sure enough, I see him immediately. He's sitting down, knees drawn up with his arms folded on top of them. He's got his forehead resting on top of his arms, staring down at the sand between his legs. I stand there for a moment, wondering if it will just be better to leave him alone. After a few seconds, I finally decide to sit down next to him cross-legged. His ears flick in my direction, and he turns his head to the left, away from me. I notice a few wet spots between his feet. I decide to let TJ talk when he's ready. In the meantime, I pick up a dry twig and start toying with it, snap it in half, then snapping the other halves in half. I can see that his ears are still swiveled in my direction, probably wondering what the hell I'm doing. I think I'm getting on his nerves because finally he talks. What do you want, Chase? I throw the pieces of twig into the river. I'm just wondering where you went. You want to go back and eat? No. We sit there for a while longer as I watch the twig pieces float down the river. Finally, I can't believe he did that in front of everyone. I'm not sure what to say, so I stay quiet. After a minute, TJ finally turns his head, looking into the river. The wind picks up, reflections from the river highlighting motes of dust that swirl up around us. His face fur is a bit mussed up, spiked up in a few places from being wet. It's an unusual sight to see his fur unkempt. I mean, what the heck? TJ, unable to curse even though it would probably be the best thing for him. He adjusts his legs to sit cross-legged like me and wipes his face again. Did you know what he was talking about? I take in a breath and show about how I should approach this. I think so. TJ's ears lower. Listen, no one else thinks anything happened. We were so little, especially you. I mean, I can't believe he's doing this. I trace a claw through the dirt, drawing some wavy patterns as I try to make sense of all this myself. I think it's just because he was such good friends with Sydney and he wants more than the truth. I look sideways at TJ. He's just sitting there looking at the ground. And I guess you're the only one that saw him, saw what happened, so he only has you to go after. I saw him drown. I don't say anything, but I feel myself cringe inwardly. Pretty soon tears are running down TJ's face, but he doesn't bother to wipe them away. He's not just sad though, he's angry. I hear it in his voice as he goes on. I saw Sydney drown and Flynn thinks he's the only one that hurts. He thinks that he's the only one that feels like he's in a nightmare. Well, maybe. His voice cracks and he looks away from me again, wiping in his face. Maybe I haven't told him everything because I don't want him to have those images in his head. TJ takes a moment to steady his voice, working to get his breathing back to normal. I just wish I could go back to that day. TJ, there's nothing you could have done. I know my words are meaningless crap and I hate myself for saying them. But I have to say something. Not one of us would have been able to do anything if we were there. You would have. Well, besides, I already know I couldn't have saved him on my own. That isn't what... TJ takes a moment to wipe his face again. When he's done, he doesn't go on. We sit in silence for a long while after that, and I adjust myself that I can lean back against a rock behind me. I pat the ground. Sit next to me, Tej. He's calmed down for the most part. After a moment, he does crawl over to sit by me. I pick up a few pebbles and toss them into the river. Remember when we used to call it Seesaw River? Yeah. He leaves it at that, so I drop it. I rest my head back and close my eyes, only then realizing how tired I am. In some way, I can see why Flynn is so suspicious, or at least why he believes there's more to the story. There clearly is. But while I do want TJ to tell me more about what happened, I can never bring myself to ask him. I honestly feel that if I ever want to help him with his past, I should probably come to terms with it myself. I crinkle my brow, toying with the idea of going back. It's something I actively avoid thinking about. We all do. But like Jenna said, maybe talking about it, thinking about it, might actually help. I dig my fingers into the pebbles on either side of me. The images come in a quick flurry, like someone cycling through a Viewmaster too fast. The sky is overcast, the air crisp, autumn. TJ sitting in a daze, Jenna running back to town, Flynn pulling me into the water. Me grabbing onto neck scruff, pulling back to shore. Carl sitting on a rock, bawling. Leo starts trying to do compressions. And Sydney just stares. Sirens, the helicopter rotors, adults everywhere. I'm home. Mom's holding me. Dad puts on my favourite movie. I watch. But still, Sydney stares. I open my eyes again and the world is blurred. The light reflecting off the river makes me squint. I rub my eyes with the back of my paw and it comes away wet. My chest hurts and so does my head, throbbing and buzzing. I look over and, luckily for me, TJ's leaning back with his eyes closed like I was. If revisiting that day is so horrible for me, I can't imagine what it's like for him. I decide right then and there that I'm not going to press TJ on what happened. If he wants to tell me more, he'll do it on his own accord. I kind of want to swim again, but at the same time I don't. Oh, that day really fucked up my view about water. He's ruined the whole trip. TJ speaks suddenly and I look over at him. Flynn? No, he hasn't. TJ does finally look at me then. I'm struck by how dishevelled and sad he looks. I feel anger bloom in my chest, all of it directed at Flynn. What a selfish prick, thinking he had the right to ruin everyone's good time just because he felt like shit. If he were here right now, I'm pretty sure I'd punch him right in the gut. Listen, we don't all need to hang out to have fun. We had fun at the park with just you, me and Carl, remember? If Flynn wants to be a douchebag, then let him. We'll do our own thing. TJ sniffs and I see his tufted ears perk up a little. Didn't you want to go hike the trail? He smiles at that and looks at me. You didn't want to hike, I could tell. I grin. Well, that's because it's so friggin' hot. But seriously, we didn't come here to lay in a motel all week. And we can bring water, just dumping on yourself every half hour. That's how I manage, along with taking plenty of breaks. TJ leans back and spreads his legs out. I can see he's starting to get excited at the prospect of hiking, and that makes me feel better. Well, if you're able to do it, I guess I shouldn't complain. I look over his fluffy form, which by itself is enough to make me sweat even more than I am already. You know, I always thought you'd go back after you graduated high school. The Great White North. I say it dramatically, nodding upwards as if that's where it is. Your parents did. TJ's family moved to Echo when he was only 6, from a small town called Wasatchua. His dad got a job in Echo to survey the land or do something with the wildlife. I can't remember exactly what it was. Oh, well, I don't really remember it. I might after I graduate. They have some things up there that sound really nice. Free healthcare? That, I guess, and snow. For a moment I wonder if snow is to a lynx as water is to an otter. A lot of snow did sound kind of exciting to me, though. Here would be lucky to see a single dusting of it a year. So, you're serious about hiking with me? Of course. I'm going to bring some of my equipment too. I think I want to get some shots of the canyon. Okay. He waggles his furry feet back and forth. I hide a grin at his enthusiasm. Alright, so we're going to have to get up around 6. Oh. I want to be able to make it to the canyon for lunch where we can rest for an hour or two, then... You can tell how excited TJ is by how much he talks. Well, if anyone's good at planning things out at a ridiculously meticulous level, it's TJ. We sit there for another 20 minutes or so and just talk, mostly about school and what our plans are once we graduate. I promised TJ that we'll meet up again before I do. That's when I get a text from Jenna asking where we are. I stand up, brushing off my pants before reaching down to help TJ up. Well, we'll better go back. Guess they're all wondering where we are. When we get back, everything's packed up and in the van, along with Carl and Jenna. Leo's leaning against the van waiting for us, his paws in his pockets. He looks at me, then over at TJ, obviously trying to gauge his mood. Everything good? Yeah. TJ answers before I can, and whether or not he actually is okay, he sounds happy enough. Well, alright then. We get in the van at that point, no one's saying anything as we make the short drive back to the motel. As we get out, Leo tells us all he's going to have a word with Flynn, and, despite the spoiled afternoon, we still had stuff to do over the week. I'm not too convinced myself that will happen. I am convinced it's going to be awkward as fuck if we do. Leo leaves for work at that point, though Carl does end up coming in with us to the motel room. The rest of the day is pretty uneventful. We watch a few movies, then go to the diner for dinner. Afterwards we just sit in the room and talk, Carl filling us in on how things have been in the town over the past 3 years. It's not long before the conversation drifts back to Flynn and his outburst. Well, I think he's just antsy because he's realising how shitty it's been without you guys. Trust me, he's already kicking himself for it right now. Even if he is, it doesn't mean anything unless he apologises. Ah, you know how he is, Jenna. He's sorry even if he won't say it. I don't care. He's going to have to realise that none of us have to put up with him anymore. Hey, why don't we all get some ice cream? I've been wanting to go to Ray's ever since we got here. It's hard to tell if TJ's just trying to change the subject or actually wants ice cream. Probably both. Yeah, you want to drive half an hour to Peyton? Sure. What? Why? They moved it there. Oh, it sucks. Haven't had their rocky road for a year now. Oh. Well, let's just stop by when we go to Peyton next. I assume we aren't staying in Echo for the rest of the trip. Ooh, Chase, can you take us? I just smiled at him from my spot on the couch. Sure, why not? Yes, I love the cookie dough. What about you, Jenna? Jenna's busy looking at her phone. Oh, I've always enjoyed their butter almond. It's hard to find that flavour anywhere else. TJ looks at me and I open my mouth to answer. But for a moment I draw a blank. The memories of Ray's hazy and blurred. My head is still buzzing. Vanilla. I've been feeling pretty shitty ever since I had that talk with TJ by the river. I make a mental note to steal some of Jenna's aspirin before I go to bed. Well, Flynn was right about one of us at least. Carl! What's wrong with that? No one doesn't like vanilla. I grin even though Carl's comment hurts me more than it should. Well, he's just joking after all. I mean, who loves it, right? Personality of a rock. I think it's a good answer, especially if you put toppings on it. The buzzing picks up and I feel a dull pulse behind my eyes. The three of them continued to talk amongst themselves as I leaned my head back against the couch. I closed my eyes, trying to will away the pounding in my head. I opened my eyes. The room is dark. Jenna is in her bed. TJ's in his. Carl's wrapped in a blanket on the floor. I lurch for my camera bag, then look around wide-eyed. I sit on the bed next to TJ and stare at the door. TJ stands at the edge of the lake, staring across to the other side. He has one paw in his pocket, the other holding a beer. He takes a drink from it. TJ doesn't drink beer. He pulls the tab off the top, then flicks it towards the lake. It whizzes like a weed cutter skipping across the water and kicking up spray. Suddenly, his ears snap up and he sees something I don't. He turns and starts to run. He's at a dead sprint when his leg snaps out from under him and he falls to the rocks, beer splashing everywhere. A chain is pulled taut from the lake connected to his ankle. I get up, wanting to help, but I can't. I look down, my wrist and ankle chained. So that was it for Monday. That's going to be the intro video for TJ. We'll carry on the next video with what goes on Tuesday in the hiking, which should be up fairly soon. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Yakida.